Jeremy Jackson with DripMadeLive. I hope you're enjoying the content, and if you like this, you can watch it happen live from 8 to 11 p.m. Central Time on most weekdays. You can find that at YouTube, at Rumble, or at X, all at DripMadeLive. So, thank you for joining us. Hit all the buttons, and enjoy the show. For our next trick, we are going to set a diamond. This is going to be a 1.2 carat diamond. We're going to set it in a little 4-prong basket. Let's take a quick look. 1.2 carat diamond set in a little basket mounting. We'd call this a solitaire pendant. It's 4 prongs. Be a pretty quick, easy setting. So, we're going to use our torch, and we're going to heat our thermolock. This is kind of like shellac, if you're familiar with shellac, but a little bit better product. It's way easier to work with. You don't have to get it near as hot. It doesn't stick to everything, and it's not quite as brittle as shellac. I really like it. Not getting it nearly as hot, you can manage most of it with your fingers. So keep that torch going here. Get it a little bit hotter. I'm going to heat the plate too on the underside so we make sure that stays stuck down real nice. I don't want to heat it enough to ignite, but I'm just gently warming that. Take our piece, we're going to stick it down in there. Then we're going to take something round, and we're going to push all that on the inside of the basket out, make room for our culet, and that'll help hold the piece in as we're working on it. This is going to be a pretty fast setting. I may or may not do a lot of explanation here. We'll just see how it goes. If I'm running my mouth too much, throw me a chat, let me know. If you'd rather just watch me work in silence, I'm happy to do that. Okay. I'm going to angle that down just a hair. Keep that in frame. Okay. Oh, you may notice we got stickers. Brand new, fresh out of the printer. If you want one of those, send me an email. I'll mail it to you for free. At DripMadeLive. Okay. Yep. If you want one, send me an email with your address. I will gladly ship you one for free. Okay. You can't really see it in there. It's kind of buried. There we go. Okay. Alright. Got our torch still going over there, just in case we had to move this around. Some jewelers will just run that torch all day if they're doing a lot of sizings. They're going to do a lot of torch work. Just keep it going. It doesn't. It's running basically like a Bic lighter. It doesn't run off a lot of propane. It doesn't take very much propane at all to run that torch. A tank will last years of constant use, like a 20-pound. I don't remember. A 15-pound, just whatever you would use on your gas grill. A tank of propane like that will last years. A lot of jewelers are moving to what's called star gas. It's a hotter burning propane. Similar performance, but burns a little hotter, a little cleaner. That may be an upgrade we do in the future. So, but right now, just shoot. You're out of the canister, out of the exchanger. Propane works just fine for these little torches, and it'll last forever. You can run quite a bit from it. It's basically like a pilot light off of a furnace. That's about what it's going to burn. So, anyway, back to our piece. Let's take a look at our diamond. Let's see how it's going to fit. I'm going to stay on the microscope for this. Let's get a focus there. Oh, beautiful. Okay. Okay. All we're going to do... Now this is a natural diamond. It's going to have a few more inclusions than the last one we set, which was pretty much eye clean. I think it was a VS1. This one, without knowing for sure, here, I will find out for sure. Whoop. This one is an I2. So it's got a little bit larger inclusions. It's an H in color. Very pretty stone, color-wise. Now, if it were in the DEF range, that would be nearly colorless. GHI is just a little bit more yellow, but almost at the naked eye. With the naked eye, you probably won't be able to tell. Now, because it's an I2, you're going to see a few more inclusions, but this thing sparkles quite brilliantly. Like I said, it's a 1 point. What did I say? 1.2 carat? Oh, sorry, 1.01 carat. I was giving that stone a lot more credit than it deserved. It measures pretty much right at where a 1 carat diamond should, about 6.4 millimeters in diameter. So it fits this basket really well. If I stop running my mouth, I can probably set this guy in just a few minutes. It's going in a correctly sized mount, so let's get started. Let's do it pretty quick. All right, 90-degree burr, or excuse me, 70-degree burr. We're gonna just from experience, I know where I should probably cut the seats on this. We're gonna make sure it's not too high, not too low. I'm just gonna do a preliminary cut. It being 6.4, it'll have plenty of space in that mounting. We won't have to bend any prongs back unnecessarily. I'm just going to cut those seats at a uniform height. If you have questions, I just talked a little bit about the stone grading. If you have questions about how that works, let me know. I am more than happy to answer. Okay. And if you missed any part of this stream live, you don't have to fret. It will be up both on YouTube and on Rumble. It takes 30-45 minutes after the stream goes down for it to put the video up, but you can watch that anytime you like. If you want to show anyone else what I'm doing here, you can direct them to those videos. They can catch up and see the other cool things we've been working on over the past couple of streams. Episode 2, we did a massive 5.8 carat yellow sapphire that is just gorgeous. We're going to plate that thing tomorrow, so I'll get it out and we can take a look at it again. So I've got these seats about uniform, about at the right height that I need them. We're going to take a quick look at the girdle of this stone. Ooh. Take a quick look at the girdle of this stone. I'll try to keep it in frame here. And one thing I can immediately notice is it's got a really thin girdle. So I'm not going to have to cut tall seats, but I do want to make sure my seats are very clean and very uniform, because a thin girdle can be easier to chip. Now, this stone also has a pretty significant inclusion that's going to have to go under one of those prongs. So I'm going to be very careful in cutting the seats, that everything's even. I'm going to be very careful in bringing the prong over so that I don't make that inclusion into a chunk. Okay. Cool. I like the way this looks. Okay. All right. If you're joining us on a platform other than Rumble, Rumble is what I'm familiar with, but we're using a different program right now to multi-stream. So if you're joining us on a different platform, Facebook, X, or YouTube, throw me a comment. Let me know you're there. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer. Okay. Looking good, looking good, looking good. Okay. All right, so I'm just making sure these are all uniform. And I'm going to come in next and just very gently cut for the top of the seat. Now, because this has a very thin girdle, I don't have to worry about cutting too high. But I am going to make sure that I don't cut too deep, because I'm going to have to bend these prongs, these two bottom prongs back pretty far to sneak this stone in. We want to go ahead and get it as tight as possible, or have the seat be as tight as possible before we go to tighten that stone. So we don't want to overcut the seat. Make sure we leave enough room for relief for the stone, but we want it as tight as possible before we put the stone in. Okay. Now, just as a from experience, sorry, losing my words there, I like to take away all these markings from the manufacturer of the mounting. I believe this is a stellar mount. I'm going to take those out so it doesn't reflect light funny under the stone. I'm going to smooth out gently the inside of this mounting where it hasn't been polished. We're also going to cut away some of this thermalock so we can fit that stone down in there. Okay, so I cleaned that up nicely. Let's cut away some of this thermalock. I'm just using a ball burr for this and knocking off those stamp markings. It's my opinion that those are great for the jeweler, but they should never, ever, ever be something the customer has to see. You don't need to know that. You don't need to know or how big that mounting is. And it kind of, just my opinion, it looks kind of trashy when it gets left. So we trashy on the jeweler, not on the wearer. All right. Okay. So next thing we're going to do, very briefly, I'm going to use a file and take off some of these cast marks, smooth them out so that polish is easier. I'm using my barrette file here. This is kind of my go-to file for stone setting. I've got one side really polished finally. It might need to get repolished in the near future, but it's great for burnishing. You can use the tip of that file to get in some spaces that you normally wouldn't, but it's also a file on one side so you can, for example, on what I'm working on here, I've filed that little ridge off, and now I can use the back side of this file and give it a quick burnish, and that'll make it easier and cleaner to polish. You just take out those scratches. Okay. And we're going to take the file side, we're going to cut the top of these galleries off where it leaves a funny little ridge. Some jewelers won't put this kind of detail into a little pendant like this. I think it's all part of the job. It's something that needs to be done. You want every piece of that jewelry piece to shine, especially around that stone. You want a light reflected every way you possibly can, because that's what makes those stones look great. Alright, so I've taken off the edge of that. I probably could have already had that stone set and in place if I wasn't putting the kind of detail into it. But if you know anything about me, you know that that's not how I roll. Alright. We're going to raise this up just a little bit. I think I had to go a hair deeper with those seats. We're going to go a little bit taller just looking at the stone and how it fits. The proportions on the stone are really nice. It's got a good sized girdle even though it's thin. It's got an appropriate depth to the pavilion and an appropriate height to the crown. Overall, a pretty nice cut. Only thing that brings the cut quality down might be that right there. And hopefully you can see it. You may not be able to. It's a couple extra facets. And that'll weigh into how the stone is graded. Overall, a very, very nice cut. Okay, I'm going to stop fawning over the stone. Let's get this bad boy in. All right, switching to a slightly smaller 90 degree. I keep saying 90 degree burr, 70 degree burr today. I'm going to go a little deeper on all the prongs and a little bit taller up. I don't want to cut more than 50% into this prong. Also, don't want to set it too high. Okay, now, secret jeweler's tip and or trick. Very tiny ball burr. I've discussed this before. One of the very best jewelry instructors in the country. He's got a lot of very talented progeny. Teaches this tip. I've taken it to heart. I sometimes take it a little bit further. You take a little ball burr, and you run up the very center of these prongs where that star facet junction is going to lie. This lets the top of that prong grab the top of that stone around that facet and prevents the stone from spinning if it ever gets loose. Shouldn't ever get loose if we're setting it correctly, unless there's some kind of damage to the mounting or one of the prongs snags on something and gets pulled back. Should never ever get loose. But this will kind of prevent the stone from turning, both when we set it and once it's out in the wild. I can control how it how it is here, but I can't control what it does when somebody wears it, or how they use and abuse it. But we can make sure that even if one of those prongs gets pulled back, it won't turn, it won't spin, it won't come out. Alright. So we've got those seats cut now. We're going to test fit our stone back in. And that's going to fit a little bit better than it did before. Let's go ahead and pull those prongs back. Now when I pull them back, I'm not pulling the whole prong back as I would hold it like this. I'm only going to pull it back right above the seat. And we're only going to pull it back enough where we can sneak that stone into place. Okay. Very briefly. Okay. Going to fit that guy in right there. Gonna have to pull this prong back just a hair more. And that's sitting nicely down in our seat. However, this prong here looks like we need to cut it a little bit further down at an angle and give it a little more space so that it fits nicely in there. I'm going to pop that stone back out. Switch back to our 90-degree burr. 70-degree burr. I keep doing that. I'm going to angle the seats down just a hair more on all the prongs, just to account for the depth of the pavilion. 70 degree isn't going to match the pavilion exactly, so we have to make some slight adjustments. But it's way closer than a 90. That's why I like using them for this kind of setting. Just going to have a little bit more space for that prong, or that stone to nestle down into those seats. And this guy, we wanted to cut it just a hair taller. That's both a function of how we pulled that prong back and the shape of the stone. The girdle on one side looks a little bit thicker. And since we have an inclusion in that, we definitely don't want to put a lot of pressure down where that inclusion is. Alright. Pretty happy with how that sits. We're going to pull that prong back just a hair more. Stone drops in. Now we're going to give this stone a quick spin around so that we put that inclusion up. We're not going to grab it on the inclusion. We're going to put that inclusion on one of the lower prongs. We're going to orient it. Orient it with the you can kind of see it there. That inclusion right there. We definitely don't want to put any pressure on that if we can avoid it. Very nice. Alright, drops right into place. I'm going to gently bring these guys back a hair. Just give that stone a little room to move around before we set it. Okay, what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to get that to sit down on all the prongs. And right here, I notice that one prong is a little bit taller than the rest. So I'm going to drop that seat down just a hair. There we go. Now that fits in nicely. Doesn't want to rock. Sits level. I am going to turn it so that inclusion is on one of the lower prongs. It's on one of our more open seats. That stone looks like it's going to fit very nicely. Okay, looking at it from the side, I do think I'm going to cut just a hair deeper into the top prongs so that stone can slide in just a little bit more, make sure it's level. Take the stone in, take it in, put the stone in, take it out, put the stone in, take it out. That is the job. Okay. Looks like we're level with the basket. Almost all the sides. We may have to do a little shifting around once we get the stone in. That is a-okay. Okay. Pre-polish is the next step. Taking the stone back out. We're going to use a wheel brush. Give this a little quick polish on the sides of the prongs. I usually do it in the same order most times. I do the sides of the prongs, I do the gallery, I do the inside. Sometimes I'll do the inside first. Okay, now we're going to do the other side. All we're doing is saving ourselves a little headache of trying to polish around the side of a stone. We want it as polished and as bright as possible before we put the stone in, because it is way harder to get in there once the stone's in place. Try to shift this over where you guys can, or where I can stay in frame. My microscope might have reset there. Microscope camera, so it's a little off. Oh no! Moving everything around. There we go. Picture in picture. Alright. So now we're going to take our wheel brush and we're going to polish tops of the gallery. I like to do it both directions, front and back. And shine that up nicely so that it reflects light well. I'm going to go ahead and polish the areas on the bail that might get behind our stone where we can't reach it. Okay, after we get this guy in, we're going to take a short break, and we will be back. So, sides of this are polished. We're going to switch to an end brush. Use that, polish straight down in to the setting. We're cleaning up and shining up the inside of the mounting so it reflects light well from the inside too. We're also softening those seats, polishing those seats. As long as you can account for it and you don't over polish them, this is a good idea and a way to prevent chipping certain stones. Especially softer things like amethyst. Oh my gosh, amethyst. It drives me up the wall how easy amethyst is to break sometimes. Most other quartz, not as bad. For some reason, amethyst, they just love to break. Okay. Pretty happy with that. Let's get our stone in. So we're going to orient this, meaning we're going to turn the facets so that a star facet is at 12 and 6, 12 and 6 on the stone. Okay, going to use our parallel pliers. Grab the prong. I'm going to start with this guy with the inclusion and just go ahead and get him down a little bit. And I'll do the next one. I'm not going to do the opposite yet. I'm just trying to get these to be about the same distance so that if we need to, we can shift the whole stone over. We shouldn't have to yet. Okay. Also with parallels, you can do this. Just grab the stone and turn it gently. You cannot do that with a hinged set of pliers. That is a quick way to broken and chipped girdles. Broken stones and chipped girdles, I should say. Okay. Looks pretty level in our basket. I'm going to bring the prong on the opposite side of our inclusion down, understanding that I'm adding pressure to that area where the inclusion is. That is another area where you might break a stone. It's pushing from the opposite side of an inclusion. Okay. I'm staying off this guy, but I am going to make sure the top of this prong is down all the way. That's good. Same thing over here. Make sure the top of the prong is snugly onto the crown. Alright. Feel good about that. That stone is tight. It appears to be nice and level. And it is oriented. Those are the most important aspects we need to, to do before we move forward. Tight, level, oriented. Okay, so we're going to cut the tops of these prongs off. Now, two strategies here. I'm going to opt for the safer one. One of them would be to use snips. Just go in here, grab the prong, snip it off. That's going to send metal flying, but it's also going to send a shock through the stone. If this was a diamond without such a gnarly looking inclusion on that where that prong sits, I might take that chance, but I'm not going to with this one. So I'm going to opt instead to use the saw. We're going to cut those prongs off at an appropriate height, kind of like we did with the sapphire, and then we will move forward. Okay, I'll demonstrate the trick that I talked about earlier again, as I'm cutting this off. Hold on. I just realized you're not getting quite the focus you should be on our microscope cam. That's a little bit better. Okay. Yes. Okay, so here's the trick I was talking about earlier. If you're cutting a colored stone and Well, really, any prongs that you're cutting off, you don't want the saw to slip and mar up any of the other prongs. So what we're going to do is cut it until it wants to just move and open up like it's opening up like a mouth. And as soon as it's wide open and yelling at us, we take our finger and we knock the top of that prong off. And so we're being safe with the stone, we're being safe with our other prongs, and we're saving ourselves a little bit of headache that can happen if you take a saw blade and run it across a prong that you didn't intend to. Oops. One moment, folks. Okay. Ah, see? That is why we do that. Got a little antsy there, got moving a little fast, and now I scratched the side of the prong. Now, I didn't do much damage. That is perfectly okay, because that'll come out with polish. But if I were moving really fast and I drug that saw blade back, I might leave a big nick in there. And then we have some problems. Mainly because I don't have a laser welder. If I had a laser welder, I could go back in there, add a little bit of metal, and it'd be good to go. But I don't. So I would have to hope and pray that I don't have too bad a nick that I can't take out with burnish or a file and polish. So there you go, opening up just gently. Whoop. That one decided to come loose. Alright, one more try at this. Just enough where it starts to open up like that. I'm gonna slow down here. There it went, it's open. Yep. Boom. Knocked off. And our stone is safe and sound. Now, I'm going to take those down just a hair further using a sanding disc. Well, I say that. Let's use gotta find a sanding disc first. Okay. I had one. Alright, let's get another one up and ready. Just a medium grit sanding disc. And a flex shaft. And, oh. I'll scratch that. This is going to be a little bit finer of a sanding disc. This is the fine. There we go. I'm going to take those down until they're level with the table. By table, I mean the flat facet on the very top of the stone. Now when these stones are cut, one of the key aspects they're looking for in the cut is making sure you have a table that is a certain ratio, certain proportion of the size of that stone. And that can impact how the stone looks from the top just as much as the depth of the stone. Okay, so we're going to take a cut burr now. It's a little bit big. And a little small. Still a little big. That guy is just right. We're going to take a cut burr and our flex shaft, and we're going to take those prongs down and round them off. Want them to look very nice on that in that mount. Thing here. We're going to pre-cut this with a slightly larger than necessary cut burr, and then we're going to finish it off with one that's a little closer to the size of our prong. Just realized I'm tapping the microphone with the flex shaft. I am so sorry about that if that's coming through. One of the other future upgrades that's coming is a boom that's going to work better for this space. So I can get that out of the way of our flex shaft and we don't have this problem. Alright. Just a moment. Okay. Going to gently trim some of these up. Just a moment here, folks. Okay, there we go. Okay. Making sure the front of our prongs, we get that excess metal out of the way. We'll use our file first, and then we'll come back in with the graver and cut those. Don't like the back of this prong. I think I'm going to switch to a slightly smaller cut burr. And reshape those. sure I come at this from all the angles. Make sure it's nice and round. Probably due for a new cup burr at this size. You're getting a little bit dull. Alright, I feel good about that. I like the way those are shaped. I'm going to go in with a graver and take off any excess metal that might be over the edge of the stone and lightly drag it backwards to burnish gently across the front of those prongs. Just like that. Just taking any of those extra little flanges of metal away. Sometimes they'll come away with polish. It's easier to just knock them off with the graver and then it polishes smoother anyway. Okay, so feel really good about that. We're going to take our torch and we're going to take this guy out. Heated it up nicely. Now, so just roll right out. Okay, this is going to go into our ultrasonic in some acetone, not in the sonic solution. The sonic solution will take some of this thermalock off, but it won't take all of it. Acetone will just eat this away really quickly, and the vibrations speed the process up immensely too. So after we shake this in the acetone briefly, it'll be a nearly clean piece. We can polish it, throw it back in the sonic, and get it ready for plating. So you can see all that thermalock came off really easily, and we're left with a little solitaire. From here I would just polish the prongs, polish the sides of the bail, and get it ready for plating.